All right, quite a good day in the market today. But just like we didn't want to get too freaked out on the way down, we don't want to get too freaked out on the way up. We want to remain fact-based, statistic-based, truth-based. And I'm seeing some very clear signs and some things that materialized last week and continued today as we had a little bit of a reversal that may indicate that this isn't just a simple bounce before more prolonged selling. That this is actually something that has staying power, at least if we're positioned properly. Let me disclaim, if you have something like DocuSign or Zoom, which are great products, but are very expensive, you certainly have downside that you can see in that position. Interest rates seem like they're going to rise, and multiples may compress, but that shouldn't affect every stock, right? Energy companies at an 8 forward PE, or even less than that, shouldn't have their multiples compressed. They're already very overly compressed multiples. So there are areas of the market that should continue to do well, and we're going to talk about some things that occurred right now. So if you look at the S&P 500, last 5 to 10 days, you can see a downward channel has formed. And today's bounce will not convince you that we have removed ourselves from that downward trend. We got, to the top of that channel as the S&P peaked on the day, and then we pulled back. So you might even look at that as a high level of confirmation that there might be something going on here, and we got to pause. Let's let this thing play out a couple of days. However, I am not taking that position. Conversely, that's the S&P 500. If you look at the S&P 500 equal weight, which equally weights all the companies, and if you've been watching this channel for some time, some of our biggest bones to pick are with companies like Microsoft, which, like DocuSign and Zoom, are great companies, but are quite expensive and have done nothing but go up for years on end. We will not say that's not justified because they have also increased income and earnings years on end. Anyways, S&P 500 equal weight is not having the same thing occur. If those of you know trading patterns, may know something called a head and shoulders technical pattern that indicates the top. It's very clear how this occurs. You've got all this momentum building up, volatility, and then finally you can't match the volatility of the peak volatility, and there's a sell-off. If you look at the S&P 500 equal weight, you will see in the last 5 to 10 days what is, and you can look at the 5-day chart, it'll show, you'll see it, what is called an inverse head and shoulders. Look up the head and shoulders on Google if you're not familiar, look it up, and then turn your phone upside down and look at it, and then look at the S&P 500 equal weight and try to find that perfect channel that the S&P 500's in. So you'll see it's not the case that the S&P 500 equal weight is making some sort of potential bottom. Like it may have bottomed already, and we may be able to see that just a few days out, that it has bottomed. We'll see. Time will tell. But I'm liking what I'm seeing, and that would remain. I do also not like to get into technicals, but we use them. We always look at them. We always look at them. We always consider them, and I think here it confirms the fundamental story we believe. We've stayed away from the expensive tech that we don't think can 10x. Although we have acknowledged that 10x stocks can obviously experience pain, and they have. But the stuff that has just continued to go up and is still called growth, it is growing, but it is not offering that 10x growth that we're really seeking over here. Those companies that take up a huge percent of the S&P 500 may continue to sell off, and we may continue to see the equal weight. Maybe the equal weight has a little bit of outperformance. Like we saw the head and shoulders in the equal weight, like we saw the S&P 500 still looking in a little bit of a bearish channel we're seeing some energy companies start to form their own bullish channel. Look at Schlumberger. Very bullish 5-week chart. Again, we're not technicals guys, but here, this is all we can do, really. I mean, we've got the fundamentals. That's all we talked about last week. Now we're finally seeing a bounce. Okay, we know the fundamentals. The fundamentals didn't change at all. So are we at a bottom or not? Well, now we're getting a little bit of technicals because the fundamentals, we'll get to that in a sec, but we're looking at what I view as, in my opinion, it's not investment advice. These are investment views that I have, and we all have, and even investment professionals certainly have investment views, even though they might not have investment advice to give you. Anyways, energy fundamentals. We had a 13% drop in a single day, and we definitely all experienced that day. That was the Friday after Thanksgiving. That was an aggressive day, and it was based on Omicron, it seemed. The Fed hadn't talked yet. Omicron was scaring a lot of people, new variant, unknowns, computers seeing all that and being programmed based on history to sell. It now seems Omicron is less deadly and confirms what we had been saying on here and on Twitter for quite some time now, since that day. If you go to Twitter, that preliminary data, and now slightly later than preliminary data, is saying that this is less deadly and it's more virulent, and that could possibly mean the end of the pandemic. COVID just got less deadly and everyone's going to get it. Not a big deal. Everyone gets the cold. So we'll see what happens. I think that's a bullish development, and there's plenty of room to catch up in oil because we had that unnecessary, non-fundamental, purely emotional move. So hopefully we catch that up. We had obviously seen oil stocks and the price of oil kind of have this little bit of a rollover as Germany and Austria saw cases, and then that got exacerbated and possibly capitulated with Omicron. Now we're seeing all of that trend positively. Maybe we get to new oil 52-week highs. We'll see. We'll see. Time will tell. So that's today's video. You know how we're thinking. Feel free to ask questions. No question is a stupid question. They're all good questions. We ask the right questions over here. Every question is the right question, unless it's not relevant. But I know you're watching this video. You got this far. You're spending this time. Good for you. Until next time, peace out.